Hello, and welcome to Chandler in Focus. I am Vice Mayor Renee Lopez, and I am very proud that Chandler has its own symphony orchestra. The Chandler Symphony Orchestra is able to provide classical music concerts for free to our community. The Chandler Symphony Orchestra has continued to thrive over the last few years, and we're very excited about the upcoming season. Today, I have with me Pam Hahn, the Executive Director for the Chandler Symphony Orchestra. Thank you, Pam, for coming.
You're welcome.
Pam, let's start with your background first. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from the East Coast, and I got musical training there. I'm a harpist, and so I got my musical training there, my degree in music from Oberlin College in Ohio. And in 1996, my husband and I moved to Phoenix, and we've never looked back after having done that. That was the best decision we could have made after a particularly bad winter on the East Coast. As soon as I hit the valley, people found out that there was a new harpist in town who was able and willing to play in orchestras. So one of the first calls I got was from Jack Harriman with then the San Marcos Symphony. And he had some parts that he wanted to see if I would cover. So I did, and as each season would start, I'd get another call from Jack, and he'd say, okay, this is what our schedule has. And so as it went along, I kind of became a regular extra musician. I never really felt that I was part of the orchestra when I was doing that, but I enjoyed the experience very much. And over the years, there got to be more and more parts for the harp. And so Jack was always very good about scheduling his programming so that there were parts for everybody in the orchestra. So after a while, I became a pretty permanent fixture there as the principal harpist. And then in 2010, I was asked to join the board of directors. And so I did, and was immediately voted in as the secretary because they had a need for a secretary. And after 3 years of being secretary, I was asked to move up to president, which I did for another 3 years. And during that time, I was kind of hinting to the board that there were a lot of tasks involved in being a president/executive director, because at the time we didn't have an executive director. So finally, after about a year of lobbying, the board finally voted to have an executive director position initiated, and so I took that in 2016.
You were the first executive director for the Chandler Symphony Orchestra.
Yes, yeah, and so that's what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years, and I stepped away from the board, my active involvement in the board, although I do still go to meetings and act as an advisor and a resource for the board at the board meetings.
And you continue to play on the Symphony
Absolutely,
Orchestra.
yes. Yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way.
You've been up there a few times, yes.
Yes.
Good. And then this last year, we had a major milestone with the Chandler Symphony Orchestra.
Yes.
And one of the big events that kind of capped that off was back in February with a gala. You can give us a little bit of an update on how that went and
it went
some
really
highlights?
It went really well. It was our first gala, and we didn't have really a clue of how it was going to go, or if people were going to come, or what it was going to be like. But we decided that because it was our 25th anniversary season, we wanted to have a party to celebrate. And so we didn't design our gala as a fundraiser, although we did have a really nice silent auction. We made some money from that. But we just wanted people to come and to really enjoy the experience of getting together socially and
celebrate the anniversary.
Yes, we hired
we
hired a dance band, and people came to dance, and some people danced all night long. And Reverend Victor Hardy was our MC, and he did a wonderful job. Yes, he's a very amusing fellow if you've experienced him. And so we had a good time. People seemed to enjoy themselves, and we may do it again. I don't know. It was a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Maybe not every year, but every milestone.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you touched a little bit on the formation and the history of the Symphony Orchestra.
Yes.
The San Marcos, previously in San Marcos, again, 26 years ago now, I guess. And then what was the evolution to bringing it into Chandler?
Well, when it first started, Jack Harriman wanted to have an orchestra that was associated with Chandler. There was a Mesa Symphony at the time. There was a Scottsdale Symphony. Obviously, there's a Phoenix Symphony. But there was never an organized orchestra in Chandler. So he decided that he was going to pull as many musicians together from the area as he could. So we did, and they rehearsed for a short time at Mesa Community College, which of course was not in Chandler, but it was the only space they could get at the time. And finally, they weren't able to rehearse there anymore because they needed the space for other things. And so they moved around quite a lot to different locations. And as the orchestra grew, obviously they had to have more requirements for their rehearsal space. So we've moved a lot less in the past few years. But in 2006, there was an individual in the Valley who decided to register the name Chandler Symphony Orchestra with the state very early on, thinking that he might want to use it someday. And he never did, but he kept us from using it. So finally, at
So it was named the San Marcos.
That's
Symphony
why we
Orchestra,
named it
right?
the San Marcos. Yeah, and that was a little bit confusing. There was the connection with the San Marcos Hotel, but not really a Chandler-rooted thing. So finally, people kept watching it, and finally in 2006, it became free. And so we snatched that up. And because of that, former Mayor Boyd Dunn found out that we had changed our name and decided that the city needed to start sponsoring the symphony and giving us some city support. So we've enjoyed that ever since, and are completely indebted to the city for staying so loyal to the orchestra.
Part of expanding the culture of Chandler. I mean,
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
That's great. So Pam, as you mentioned in your history, you served on the board previously and then became again the first executive director.
Right.
So share a little bit with us the different roles that the board now plays and your own position.
All right. When I became executive director, our vice president, Bill Pernhagen, took over as president of the board. And he was happy to do that because by my taking a lot of the executive director jobs away, the president of the board became much easier. So he was happy to take that on. And he's done a really wonderful job in the past 2.5 years. We also have a vice president, Amy Isles. Treasurer, Catherine Nell was one of the original founders of the orchestra. She and Jack Harriman both were there from day one. And so she's been treasurer for 26 years now, which is dedication. Then total right now we have 10 board members, which isn't very many, and I would like to see a few more. We like to have a good, strong connection to the business community, and so if anybody listening to this is interested in board membership and likes classical music, we're happy to entertain that thought. We have people that are musicians in the orchestra on the board, as well as people that are community members, that are business owners. We have a couple of retired people that are they love classical music, and so they want to help out as best they can. And so it's an active board, and they meet once a month and get a lot done. And it's had to transition a little bit since I branched off as executive director from an operationing board to more of a supportive role.
Oversight.
Yes, and that's been tough for them. It's been a little tough for me too to make sure that those two items get separated. But they're enthusiastic, and they are looking forward to the future, I think.
Good.
Yeah.
And for yourself, some highlights from this last year being the executive director.
Yes,
with the great celebrations done.
Right. That was a lot of work, but it was really fun to do, and we had so much help from the community and from you, of course, for our gala and for our big event that we did outside, our Fan Fest event. Yes, that was a lot of fun.
A lot of people talk about that still.
Yes, they do, I'm sure. And so there was a lot of assistance with that. I learned a lot about the community. I learned a lot about the orchestra. And I learned a lot about myself because I didn't know that I was capable of doing most of the stuff I did. But when you get enough help from people, and there's a wealth of people, especially in the orchestra members, they're all volunteers. They all play because they want to, but they all do other things too. If they're not retired, then they're still working actively, either teaching we have some students, yes. We have a couple of high school students, we've got college students, we have retirees, we have people who are active in the workplace, doctors, lawyers, just about anything you could think of. And they're all professionally trained, so they're wonderful musicians and they love being there. And they bring with them from all those professions all kinds of information and expertise. So every once in a while, if I need some help with something, we just upgraded our website this year for the first time ever, and it's pretty wonderful. One of our orchestra members did that for us, and he donated his time to put that together, and it's just the best thing that's happened to us in quite a while. So,
are you seeing a shift now? Because again, last year there was a lot of pull. We wanted to try to bring in a younger crowd, expose some more younger families through
yes.
FanFest, through some of the advertisement. Are we starting to see that shift? A few concerts I attended afterwards were sold out, actually. I mean, there
yes,
was
very
so
much.
For this year, it seems like there's been a pretty big uptick.
There has, and we're seeing many more students. A lot of kids are coming, especially from the local charter schools. We're seeing a lot from the schools that are coming in to get credit for a music class, and so they bring in their little clipboards with their little things that they have to fill out about the concert, and they collect a program. And of course, they bring their parents, so that swells the audience quite a lot. And these kids they're well mannered. They know how to go to a concert. They know how to sit still and be quiet, and they stay through the whole thing. And it's exciting to have these young people because they get to see what an orchestra is about, and they're getting an education, and they're coming back for it. So that's really been fun to see, and they're quiet. So the older members of our audience are not getting upset, which can happen.
Different than a rock concert.
Yes, indeed.
No Panic at the Disco running there.
That's right.
So you did mention again that diversity of the families. I mean, it tended to be a little bit of a more experienced audience.
Yes.
Starting to see some younger families now.
Yep.
Where do you see the benefit? I really didn't grow up with it. I've always enjoyed it. I kind of got that bug late in life, when with my younger kids, actually, when they would go to band and try to expose them to more of the symphony orchestra, taking them to a couple of the concerts and stuff.
Sure.
Where do you see that benefit? How does that lie across generations of attending these classical music concerts?
Absolutely. You mentioned that our usual audience is a bit more mature, and those are the people that grew up with classical music. When I was a child, my mother would put me in the car once a month, and we'd drive downtown to Philadelphia and see a children's concert that was put on by the Philadelphia Orchestra. And I learned about classical orchestra music that way. That's the nature of some of those older audience members that come. And for them to come in on buses from some of the senior residences, that's a lot of work for them. But it's so important to them because those are their memories, and that's what connects some of their enjoyment with just their everyday lives. And so we're really happy to have them come in for that, and that serves that whole section of that population, and they're very loyal to us. The fact that we're getting families to come in too, that's really important. It's important for the kids to be exposed to different kinds of music. We see when we do our competition concert, when we have our auditions for our youth competition, those kids are amazingly talented and they work very, very hard. And so that has to be coming from somewhere. Those kids aren't the only ones that are intrigued and interested in music. There are a lot of kids that are classical musicians, classical instrument students, who are not going to be quite at the level of competing, but they're still going to orchestra in school every day or every week, and they're getting something out of that. Music we found has helps to build some of the brain connection, and so the more children are exposed to that, and the more they're trained with music, the stronger their brains are going to be, and the better connections they're going to have for other things, and they're going to be able to learn faster. They're going to be able to learn more complex things.
And as Chandler continues to grow, again, the Chandler Symphony Orchestra acts as one of those cultural enhancements. Again,
Yes.
like you mentioned,
Yes.
it's not just going to the movies or going to a park. Now we have the Chandler Symphony Orchestra that, again, growing in popularity to help build the next generation.
That's right. That's right.
So
We have
thank
to
you.
continue with that.
Yes. You also mentioned Jack Harriman as, again, one of the founders, and
Yes.
he's been so involved from the beginning. Again,
Yes.
like you said, he's the one driving force on the
Right.
creation of the original Chandler or San Marcos Symphony Orchestra, and
Right.
then now the Chandler Symphony Orchestra.
Right.
And he's retiring,
He
right? He's
did,
retired,
yes.
and you're currently on the look, my understanding, for another conductor, right?
Yes, we are. It's a very exciting process. As you said, Jack retired at the end of last season, and we miss him a great deal. He was the driving force behind that orchestra. He was so passionate about it, and it was everything to him.
Mm-hmm.
And
But it still is. I mean,
it
he
is.
still attends
He
the
comes
concerts.
to
I
every
see.
concert, yes, and he's very enthusiastic
Mm-hmm.
about where we're going from here. So that's a very positive thing. And we've initiated a process of auditioning 5 candidates for our at each of our 5 concerts, and each one of the candidates has chosen their own program. So and they chose which program they wanted to conduct. So we've already had 2. We've had 2 of our candidates perform with the orchestra in October and November, and those both went very well. And they obviously were nervous, as anybody is who's applying for a job. It's the same process, but
It's a long interview.
it is a long interview. It's about a 4-week interview process where they conduct all of the rehearsals, and they have to do a little bit of nurturing of the orchestra as well as disciplining of the orchestra, because every time a conductor stands on the podium, he knows what he wants to have come out of that orchestra. And so to be able to do that with a group of adults without either hurting anybody's feelings or coming across as not being a very nice person is a really fine balance that conductors have to find for themselves, and especially with a community orchestra. When you're dealing with volunteers, it's different. Yeah, it's different.
And such a wide age.
That's right. That's right.
Delta,
Yes, yeah. So we've had 2 really good experiences so far, and I'm looking forward to the next 3 concerts too. All 5 candidates are very, very different people.
Give us a little background on the 5 candidates that are currently.
Okay. The
applying.
first candidate was in October. His name was Vanya Nikolewski, and Vanya is originally from Macedonia, but has lived in Chandler for several years, many years, and he teaches at the Yamaha Piano School.
Okay.
He recently graduated from ASU with his doctorate in conducting, and he has a 12-year-old daughter, so this is not a young man, and he has some wonderful experience with conducting, both in Eastern Europe and in Russia and in this country as well. So we look forward to what he had to offer us, and he chose a very, very classical program, and so it was not anything flashy. It wasn't anything exciting. In fact, the music was quite difficult, and the orchestra stepped up. They got to a different level under his conducting. So that was an interesting experience for everyone, I think, for him as well as for us. The second candidate in November was Dr. Nicholas Ross, who is the orchestra director at Hamilton High School right now. And we've played under him before. He conducted our Pops concert in 2017. So we had already become familiar with him through that concert cycle, and he was not he was a known quantity, but he's a very nice man, and he's a very proficient conductor, and so we had another good experience with him. He was conducting our youth competition concert, so he had a soloist that he had to conduct, which was an added degree of difficulty, and he was a very young man. He was an 8th grader, so this was somebody that really needed a lot of guidance, and I think he did very well with keeping him focused and helping him to play with the orchestra, because that was his first time playing a concerto with an orchestra. Yeah, so that was exciting. Our conductor in January is John Massaro, who is the founder of the Phoenix Opera. And John has been in the Valley for many years. In fact, he's been here twice. He left the Valley after a number of years and was working in New York for a while, and then which is where he was originally from. And then he came back again to the Valley. And he and his wife his wife is an opera singer, and so he is pretty well known in the Valley and to several of the musicians in the orchestra already who have played with him before. So he's got a lot of experience and a lot of good skills to bring with him. The conductor in March is Chuck Stewart, and Chuck Stewart is brand new to the Valley. He's probably our youngest candidate, and in fact, I know he is, and he's he's brand new to us. And he and his wife have just moved here, and He's teaching at a charter school in Scottsdale, and he's just got some really new and interesting ideas. So we chose him as one of our 5 candidates as a virtual unknown to any of us, because he had some really interesting thoughts about programming and about fundraising and about taking the orchestra into the next 25 years. So we figured that that was going to be worth a try. The final candidate in the May concert is going to be Cindy Petty, our only female candidate, and she is a member of the orchestra. She is the second violin principal, and she's conducted us before. So she is another known conductor that we've worked with before. So that will be another interesting concert.
So a good mix of, again, new and experienced,
yes,
and
yeah,
outsiders and insiders. Yeah, that's
yes,
get a good sampling.
Yes, yeah,
Good.
yeah.
It'll be fun. So some of the musicians you mentioned, again, with the conductor's challenges is again running a volunteer symphony orchestra like yourself. Give us a little bit more detail on if when somebody comes to the concert, the spread of the instruments that you have on the symphony orchestra.
Our orchestra is a full-sized orchestra, and at any given time there can be between 75 or over 100 musicians on the stage, depending on what the programming is. And those musicians cover first violin, second violin, viola, cello, double bass for the strings, and for the winds there's flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon, French horn, which is sometimes considered a brass instrument because it's made out of brass, and then there, of course, there's the trumpet, the trombone, the tuba, lots of percussion, the timpani, and of course the harp.
And then the harp.
Yes.
Best for last, right?
Yes.
So we're going to watch a brief short video from one of the concerts of the Chandler Symphony Orchestra.
Yes, I chose the concert that we did in October. The concert is entitled Pure Classics, and it's a wonderful performance.
Okay, thank you. I'm also very impressed by the performances. Again, for a volunteer orchestra, like I said, such a wide range. The amount of practices that you have to do, it's a large commitment, but they always deliver.
They do.
So,
They do always.
should I
Yes.
say you always deliver, since you're part of that.
Yes.
So on October 30th, you were the guest of the Around Town on Tuesday on the Facebook Live with Nikki Tapia here.
Yes.
So from the highlights on that, can you give us an idea of some of the fall performances that you did?
Our fall performances are the October concert and the November concert. And we also had a chamber concert that we did. We do a series of 3 of those. And that one was also in October, the end of October, the 21st. And we have those at the Chandler Community Center, their multi-purpose room. And that was the best one that we've had in quite a while. It was almost full. And we had a lot of really interesting ensembles that played in that concert. So people really, really enjoyed it. It was really a varied concert. There was a lot. We had a string quartet, we had a brass quintet, we had a bassoon trio, and we also even had a singer. Yes, bassoon trio. That was quite an interesting sound. Very entertaining.
Pretty rumbly.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it goes in through the holidays, right?
Yes, yeah. We've had our holiday concert 2 weekends ago, and which is our one fundraising concert down in Sun Lakes. And then we've got the Nutcracker. We also accompany the Southwest Youth Ballet on their annual Nutcracker performances, and that's coming up this weekend. So we're staying busy.
So it's going to be on. So unfortunately, that would have happened.
Yes.
By now.
Yes.
It's airing later, but
yes.
So for next year, those watching, they need to keep an eye out for those holiday concerts and again for the fall concerts.
Yes.
But there is an opportunity for the upcoming spring concerts.
Yes.
So give us a little background on the upcoming spring concerts.
That's the main part of our concert series. On January 27th, which is a Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, again, John Massaro is going to be the guest conductor, and he's titled his concert Classical Superheroes, which is a very creative thing to call it. He's scheduled a lot of music. There are several pieces on the program, and they're highlighting classical superheroes. We're not talking about Spider-Man here, but we're talking.
Bring kids in though.
It is. They'll have to come and find out. He's put in Scheherazade, which is the story of the 40 days and 40 nights, and where she spins tales of Sinbad the sailor, and so he's the superhero in that one. There's the William Tell Overture. William Tell is the superhero in that one, and then in Wagner's opera cycle, Siegfried is the hero, and so he's the one that's highlighted in that piece. Khachaturian wrote a ballet called Spartacus, and so we're doing one piece from the ballet about Spartacus, who's there is a ballet. It's not just a movie. And then the Prince Igor opera contains the Polovetzian dances. And Prince Igor was a big character in the Russian mythology. So the Polovetzian dances is representative from that. And there are some others on the program too that just have to come and see. We have a concert in March where Chuck Stewart is conducting. That's going to be on Sunday, March 24th, also at 3 o'clock at the Chandler Center. I am thrilled to be performing a solo on that program. It's a double concerto with Lisa Tharp, who was our principal flute player. It's a concerto by Larry Lieberman. And we'll also be hearing Dvorak's Symphony No. 8. And Chuck has called that concert Romance Near and Far. There's also going to be a piece on the program called, I think it's Arcadia Festival, and it was written for. I think he premiered it one summer when he was studying in Maine at a conducting school, and so he's going to bring that to our audience and to our orchestra. Obviously, the orchestra's never played it before, and we're hoping to put a slideshow of the beautiful Arcadia State Park from Maine up on the screen while we're playing it. So that was all orchestrated as part of the composition. And so that should be very entertaining.
Good.
Yes. And then on May 5th, also a Sunday at 3 o'clock, Cindy Petty is going to be conducting a concert called Peace and Harmony. And this is another really varied concert. There's going to be Copland on there. There's going to be Moncayo, who is a Mexican composer, which of course we have to have on May 5th. There's a Butterworth piece. It's a lovely folk tune that's been set to orchestra. And William Grant Still, a black composer, wrote the Afro-American symphony. And so it's a wonderful piece, just a beautiful piece. And so we're performing that. And she's going to also be conducting a concerto with Lauren Roth, who is the concertmaster of the Tucson Symphony. And she'll be performing the Sibelius Violin Concerto. So there are 3 really good concerts on the second half of our season. And we have 2 more of the chamber concerts too. There's one on February 23rd and another one on April 13th. Those are both Saturdays, and they're at 3:30 at the Chandler Community Center.
The community center right down the street here.
Yep, right downtown.
Good. And all these concerts, again, open to the public.
Open to the public
Free.
and completely free.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
You need to be there about 30 minutes before the concert starts to get in and find some open seating. And people fill the lobby when it's before it's time for those doors to open.
Recommend definitely hit that 30 minutes.
Absolutely.
I've shown up at 20, and parking is very, very
That's
sparse.
right. That's right. Yes. Very popular.
So as the Chandler Symphony Orchestra continues to grow, we rely on the generosity. It's a volunteer organization, but the generosity of those that attend the concerts and the businesses involved and community. So the city contributes into it, but you have a lot of other partners that do contribute also.
We do.
If everyone of all ages, again, is able to enjoy these concerts, but in order to keep them free, we do need to continue the fundraising effort throughout the year. So give me a little bit of background on if somebody wants to get involved, where would they go?
They can go to our website, absolutely, chandlersymphony.com. And we've got a very easy to find donation button on the home page. We've got a nice donation page that talks about how people can give. There are different ways of giving. There's a one-time gift. They can become a monthly sustaining donor. They can sponsor a concert. They can sponsor a musician. There are all kinds of different ways of helping us out and getting credit for it, because we are a 501c3. So every time somebody donates, they get a tax write-off, which is always good for everybody.
And if they want to get more involved other than just donating, you have volunteer opportunities. If they wish to try to apply or to be on the Symphony Orchestra.
Absolutely, yes.
Is information on that thing?
Yes, we do have a volunteer page too, a link on there that they can email somebody and say what they're interested in doing or what their skills are, and we'll put people to work.
As long as they're willing to work. Right?
That's right.
So with only a few minutes left, is there anything else you'd like to add on?
I just think that this season is a great opportunity for anybody to come and see a symphony orchestra really working hard. Our musicians are excited about the process of these auditions that we're doing, and the music. So a lot of the music that they're seeing for these concerts is music that they haven't seen before. So these new conductors are bringing new ideas and new concepts for how they want the orchestra to go, and I think that it's really going to be a great and exciting opportunity even for the audience to watch this happen.
And for the musicians, like you said, it's a challenge, but again, rising to that challenge, it gives all the musicians, I bet, a little bit of a confidence boost and also a little excitement that you're doing something new.
That's
well,
right.
Thank you again for joining me this year,
so
Pam.
welcome.
Appreciate it. And thank you for joining us on Chandler in Focus. I'm Vice Mayor Renee Lopez, and we'll see you next time.